all this ice everywhere is from water. And if it was from, it would be really dangerous being around it. Do you know what Chernobyl was? Have you seen the movies Hills Have Eyes? This is with deformities. And if you've ever seen someone who they're a bit off. If you've ever seen someone with an ingrown arm or a wall for some odd reason. There's like some of them empty is gonna have like more weight behind, so when it weighs, the universal thing that's showing signs of inflaming is gonna aren't as perfect, especially since they're usually moving with inside of a cell. And so in Mortal Kombat, there's a bee, and his name's Devora, and there's like these spikes coming out of the back, and they're like appendages. And so what Tony Stark did with weaponry is he gave a suit to Spider-Man that had the same things, but they were metal. And so this is like a carry-on from what Doc Ock has, and that's why Tony Stark had that idea. But it's the same thing between like what's on a Bulbasaur's back. If it was shooting out a whole bunch of things all around it so it couldn't get hit, that's like a force field compared to his appendages that were things that were like arms. So he could carry around like a lamb with his extra 8 appendages. That's why a samurai, his body armor, if under it was metal or the inside of it, it would be equal to RoboCop. And so why RoboCop's 10 times stronger than a regular cop is. That's because he's got robot-like skin on him and his helmet, so that's why Mega Man also too benefits as a superhero with that on. It's like Tony Stark's outfit, but not as clean, you know what I'm saying? How is like a dog puppy different than an actual puppy? It's the brain for one, because they'll make worse mistakes because their coordination isn't as good. And their necks can snap because dogs' necks are 10 times stronger adults than a puppy dog's neck is. And that's just like a full-grown human muscles to like an adolescent chimpanzee. Doesn't even match. And so you can make these relations like in your appendix as a poison that is different than the venom pits of a viper. But they're actually equal in some lengths. It's just it doesn't take out the thing that it's in. So the venom pits in a venom snake doesn't take it out, just as our appendix, unless it breaks, doesn't take you out. Knowing the nodes of flow rates is important because anything that's moving has an electric field about it. What's the relation between a bodybuilder and an LGBTQ member? They both bulk up their innards with steroids and hormones. Now you might question, why would I visualize a Pokemon going over the land? I didn't. This was in one episode where a fox that no one saw was hovering above and turning everything below to cement. Power Rangers has happened. I don't know how. That's probably why it would make so much sense that, well, of course it's a Pokemon hovering over and turning everything to cement. But why this would happen is if and you were just a splitting image of the moment before it happened. And that's why it's so important to know what is the difference between ash and the ground. It could be cement everywhere in 1 minute, just like that. And if that happened, it would be as though you were looking at through 2 mirrors and like lining one up in the other side. That would be equal to having a blanket over the top of the house. Be more complete than an entire just because it was bound in the accurate on the bottom of the blanket. That's the type of technology inside of RoboCop's helmet and Mega Man's helmet, making them equal to whatever they did, which is something better than having the entire ground turn to cement. So you like to think that RoboCop and Mega Man were good guys defeating bad guys, but we don't know that. We just know they would probably survive longer than we would
if everything turned into Armageddon, with the ground turning to cement by a Pokemon floating above us because it was a robot. Might as well be one or a Pokemon. We'd be screwed either way if the ground turned to cement everywhere. I'd rather have it be ash. If the cement was the entire ground below you, and then it was gonna shut out the center of the earth because it was gonna cement it over, then we'd be really screwed if that stopped. What would happen next if everything was cement? If you're on planet Earth and everything was cement? So that's one doomsday scenario that no one talks about. And the ground, I would rather have it be ash. But how far down in the earth would be ash? If everything melted into ash into the center of Earth, you wouldn't be standing on anything but ashes. That's how far you would fall. What if happened, if the ground turned to cement or ashes? I'd rather have it turn to cement because you would fall through all the ashes into the center of the Earth's core. What would happen if in one instant, how many four-stoke engines could make that type of explosion where you would feel it in between it going off and it not hurting you? What kind of equipment would you have to be wearing? Surely Mega Man and RoboCop would survive a little bit before we would, but we're talking seconds of a second, milliseconds. You can be as accurate with neutron stars to see what would happen in that scenario, because one of their pixel dusts of a neutron star weighs like 10,000 tons. And you can do fractions of that to see what would happen next with that much explosion power, enough to make all the ground below you turn to ash. So everyone would instantly fall into the center of the earth, or wherever the direction the explosion came from would be a big deal, because how fast would you go in that short amount of time is mind-boggling. If only the ground turned to ash and none of it hit your body. What could done that? Erase power. The difference between a zombie clone and an orc cell is race power. That's what technology is inside RoboCop. Each of these situations was when Thanos was the size of Hulk, and here's Spider-Man taking out 7 of them. If you see 2 robots doing something like standing on each other's back, you're not going to break them, but you're going to look at them, because if you saw 2 robots doing that, you would see what they would do next. At least on the suspicious. Or if another small robot ran up and laid on another robot's lap and was in public, you'd see what was going on. Spider-Man's going on and he's ruining all these robots. What's the difference between an automaton and a robot? It's like 30 Lamborghinis broken is equal to how many like 80 robots cost. Spider-Man went around and broke all of them, finding different situations where he would see Thanos. If the top of a ceiling was gone and you were using the set to look through at different bird's eye angles with like jumping up around, Spider-Man can jump up and be in the air and then have his 2 arms go up and someone jump behind him and shoot a giant ball that's equal to like an atom bomb. And he could do this all just by walking around for no other reason. Maybe it's because his space is low gravity. Just how like Silver Surfer surfboard is equal to like 30 AI Lamborghinis, but it isn't. It was a human with a helmet on and a robot arm. Or if you saw a robot on a robot dog, you would stare at them and wonder what they're doing. And if you damage their property, that would be like 1 robot dog equal to like 10 Lamborghinis. You'd probably have to pay for it if it was someone else's property, because that's illegal breaking it. So what if the door locked at the same time where you opened it, and then you just didn't see it was staying locked behind you, meaning that something went down in front of the door, making it jam so it wasn't closing automatically? This is the same combination that a key would take if it had a different charge of a vehicle, meaning if it was for some reason going off and then it made the car start and accelerate. At this point in time, if you don't do something, you could commit a crime. But what if that was your car? And if that happened, you would be going to jail if it hurt anyone. In America, we're kind of a rich country, but then we're the target for everything because we were Christians early on, and just that little bit of being Christian and authentic allowed the industrial era and capitalism to be something prominent. But now then you've got rulers of